Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Monday update recorded on October the 14th. High pressure is back in the forecast this week, and if you live in southern New Zealand or western parts of the country and you're sick of the rain, we've got a better forecast for you this week. But it does come with some frosts around the South Island and potentially coming into the North Island as well. And at the same time, a low developing near Tonga is going to turn into a storm by the looks of it between us and them. It should remain offshore, but we'll show you it on the maps because it does come close to the country in about a week's time. So let's kick off with the animated wind map. Look at the big highs out here over the Tasman, the other one just south of Tasmania, and they are heading our way. We've also got this low pressure zone. It's kind of messy. It's got a couple of centres to it, and it's tracking slowly across the North Island at the moment. There's another high pressure zone east of the Chatham Islands, but this system is gradually weakening because the high pressure zones to our west, they are dominant and they are on their way in. There's also a bit of a southerly flow coming in ahead of that high south of Tasmania, so temperatures are about to drop again around the South Island. So we had a frosty morning this morning, parts of Southland down to -2, -3. That could happen again on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. This is how we look overnight tonight. So we've got that low pressure zone. This is 3 in the morning on Tuesday, so well overnight tonight. That low is moving east of the country, and you've got a showery kind of southwest flow behind it. Here are the two high pressure zones. So let's animate the next 48 hours across Tuesday and Wednesday. And by the time we go through Wednesday, and certainly coming into the early hours now of Thursday morning, that's high pressure across the country. Still not perfectly sunny everywhere. Got a bit of cloud around with this system. Winds going to be variable by the time we get to Wednesday, Thursday, but certainly high pressure is on the way. And if you live at the southern half of the South Island, that is some good news because you've had a lot of wet weather, as you well know. So this is how we look at lunchtime Tuesday. So we'll start off with Southland and Otago. Still the risk of a shower, but it's not going to be much if you get one. Pretty much a dry day. But we do get some wet weather coming into Canterbury. That'll be welcome in North Canterbury where it's quite dry. Showers coming into the eastern side of the North Island. That low out to the east, coupled with the high pressure zones around the Tasman, just help to create more of that windy south to southwesterly. So the top half of the North Island mostly dry, but those winds will be a little brisk in exposed places. Temperature-wise, not too bad really across Tuesday. You're still seeing parts of the North Island in the upper half getting up to around 20 degrees. In the South Island, single-digit highs are possible again down around the southern half of the South Island as a result of that southerly flow coming through. So that means we've got frost risks returning. This is how we look on Wednesday morning. So you can see in the purple shading, that's a frost risk across a large part of the South Island. By the time we get to Thursday morning, not quite as big a risk around the South Island, but now you start to see some frost risks around the North Island. Now the purple lines are mostly around the hills and ranges, so it shouldn't be right down to low level, so that's some good news. But just be aware, we do have some cold weather coming in over the next couple of days, and if frosts matter to you, download our app. There's a paid alert version where you can set the criteria for frost in your location and get alerts out several days in advance, so you don't get those nasty surprises and you get to set the criteria as well. Now here we are on Wednesday, so in comes the high. Still got that southerly around parts of the North Island, a few showers for Wairoa, Mahia Peninsula and coming up towards Gisborne, otherwise dry, and those winds curve around a bit of a southeasterly, so maybe Great Barrier Island, the Bay of Islands, that area might get a couple of showers. But look, really, to be honest with you, the high pressure zone parked over the South Island will keep most places dry, and that's why that frost risk is a little higher on Wednesday morning with the light winds. Rain-wise, for the next couple of days, this is taking us through until 9 o'clock Wednesday from 9 o'clock tonight, so 48 hours from 9 p.m. Monday. Most of the wet weather up here around the eastern side of the North Island. A few showers here and there. The greens and blues are at the bottom of the scale, so 1 millimetre to maybe 5 or 10 in some of those heavier sort of yellow shaded areas where the rain comes through, but most of it will be up here in that northeastern corner. So by lunchtime Thursday, the country is still mostly dry. Good news if you live in the lower part of the South Island and also the west coast where it's been pretty relentless, the wet weather over the last few months. Now you get a break. Now in the north of New Zealand, northerly winds start to develop. We've got this low in the Tasman, that's nothing to worry about. But the low up here near Fiji, that is something to keep an eye on. We've really not seen any signs of La Nina from a weather point of view right across this year. And now as we get closer to the 11th month of the year, which is just 2 weeks away, we start to see some life up here around Fiji. But we've also got to keep in mind that their cyclone season starts on the 1st of November. also 2 weeks away. So we're getting close to seeing the normal kind of signs of life returning as far as lows and rainmakers are concerned in the tropics. Doesn't affect us on Thursday, doesn't affect us this week at all, but on Friday, the low drops past near Tonga and it starts to deepen and get a little bit stronger. So it is worth just keeping an eye on. Got this big area of high pressure east of New Zealand, still keeping most of the country dry, but that weak low in the Tasman might just bring in a couple of showers to the northwestern corner of the South Island. And over here around Australia, they've got a big stormy low developing. Good news for them because it's starting to really dry out, so they'll be happy to get that rain. Now, by the weekend, the low north of New Zealand may well become a bit of a storm. Gale force winds around it. Not a tropical cyclone too far south, but this system is worth keeping an eye on. The high next to it, if it moves further to the east, it kind of guides that system down towards us. As far as Saturday's concerned, you've got northerly quarter winds developing across the country, maybe easterlies at the top of New Zealand. Most places are dry, might be an isolated shower around the Bay of Islands, wouldn't lock that in. Most places are dry. Now as we go through to Sunday, that's when that low gets much closer to us. Now the long range modelling does suggest that by this time next week, it is moving kind of away or weakening. But the shape of this big high from the Chatham Islands all the way off towards the Cook Islands is kind of guiding it down towards us. On the other side of the country, we've got the westerly flow pushing back in again. So there's a bit of a push between those two systems. At this stage, the modelling suggests that low will weaken and fall apart northeast of the country, but it's close enough for us to keep an eye on. Meanwhile, the westerly winds return in many places on Sunday, or if you don't have northwesterlies, you might have north to northeasterlies. Either way, this weekend coming up looks fairly mild, and it still looks mostly dry. That's all from me. See you again tomorrow with our next update.